ICICI Bank, that's the one in focus. And if you've read the Economic Times this morning, let's just bring up that clipping for you, because the ET is reporting this morning that a former Supreme Court judge will now be probing the whistleblower complaint. Sri Krishna, I beg your pardon, has been chosen to conduct the probe, and Mr. Sri Krishna is going to probe the conflict charges against Chanda Kochhar. Aside of that, the hunt for the new CEO is the other angle for ICICI Bank. The nomination committee has already drafted the succession plan, as we understand. The panel is looking for a new CEO to replace Chanda Kochhar. Her term, remember, officially ends in 2019. So let's chat a little bit about where exactly is the ICICI Bank story headed. Hemindra Hazari, market expert, joins us on the phone line right now. Hemindra, what do you do with ICICI Bank? What's the angle that you look at right now? Do you think it all boils down to what the succession plan is going to be? Who's going to be overtaking from Chanda Kochhar, filling into her shoes? Or do you think this is a new twist which the market needs to take cognizance of? The fact that a former Supreme Court judge has been appointed to probe the whistleblower complaint against Chanda Kochhar.
It is absolutely imperative for the credibility of ICICI Bank, for the credibility of banking industry in India, and for the credibility of the Reserve Bank of India, that Chanda Kochhar should be removed at the earliest. Every day she has continued since the charges, the allegations have been leveled against her, has been a very dark blot on the entire banking industry. And it is extremely shocking that she has continued. Any self-respecting CEO would have stepped down at the first whiff of an allegation and let us, external investigation, then clear the person. See, this shows you the abysmal state of corporate governance in India. I'm very sorry to say this. And therefore, it is extremely important for shareholders, for the financial markets, that such CEOs should step down. And therefore, I believe if she steps down, there will be a sigh of relief from everybody. Now, we have to see once the successor comes in, because in India, mind you, when a new bank CEO comes in, there's always a cleanup. And Chanda Kochhar had a very long reign, and I would add now a controversial reign at the helm of ICICI Bank. Now, if a new CEO comes up and there's a total spring cleaning done, there could be some very heavy hits on the P&L, which, investors may or may not appreciate. So now there will be a big question mark who this new individual is. Will the person continue her type of policies? Will there be some other allegations that may emerge? We don't know now what all is hidden in the bank. So these are going to be rather, troubling times for everybody, because there's going to be a lot of uncertainty now.
Raised a very important point, Hemindra. It's not just about solving one problem, which is, the status of Ms. Chanda Kochhar at the helm of the business, or, taking a step down from her role. The foregone conclusion, I think, which I hear from all the side talk in the market is, the moment any decision is brought in or announced with regards to her stepping down, the stock would see a relief rally. But I think that would also be short-lived, because that's just part of the problem. Her stepping down is only part of the problem. The next phase that comes in is firstly getting a good leader, which is not easy to find in this market, to take over the business and turn it around, because ICICI Bank, as we know, and in the last reported numbers also it's been showcased, is having problems of its own. So that cleanup act is actually a bigger problem for ICICI Bank, which nobody seems to be factoring in. I don't know how that plays out in the stock, because right now the assumption is that with Ms. Kochhar stepping down, as and when it happens, that's a big if, there would be a relief rally. But that, to my mind, would also be short-lived, because there's so much, there's a second part of the problem too.
No, very right, because you've got to see it in the overall context of tightening interest rates in the US and probably even in the European markets. So your funds flow is not going to be conducive for such uncertainty. Now, I think there are enough good leaders in the Indian banking industry. The question is whether the ICICI Bank board, which has also been totally discredited so far by their continuing support of Chanda Kochhar, picks a principled and ethical person to head a bank, because these are extremely important qualities which a bank CEO requires. And sadly, the ICICI Bank board totally failed in this. So therefore, I think it is very important that they pick a principled, experienced, seasoned commercial banker who has very strong ethics in place, because I think that was very clearly in this whole allegation was sadly lacking. Now, there also may be an issue not only of, a massive cleanup in the bank, but, from the allegations, we know that, there have been very close workings with the Videocon group, with the SR group. Now, we don't know how many other groups, there have been some such close associations. Now, more of these skeletons start tumbling out, then people will wonder what kind of internal systems ICICI Bank had in the first place, so that they could not prevent such things.
Absolutely, Hemindra. I would also be intrigued to know who would want to take up that role, right? Who would want to take up the business at this stage. It would be a brave call.
Because it doesn't seem like there are many takers who want to really clean up all that dirty linen.
Yeah, I think it's going to, while I agree with Hemindra, there are lots of good leaders. It's really about who wants to take the job. Okay, Hemindra, thanks very much for giving us that take. That's ICICI Bank, 0.5% higher. The market is still looking at this news as glass half full, half empty. Really, it's that scenario that's playing out.